Hey guys, we're doing a little bit of a build order. This is a variation. We did earlier 2TC brush, and I've been playing around with it a little bit more. And just a couple of different aspects with this build is that we're not going to open with the hippodrome. We're going to open with the winery to start getting as much olive oil as possible for mercenaries, and this build kind of focuses a lot on using the olive oil to kind of support your QTC boom until it gets really online. And so the olive oil is a really strong feature for the Byzantines, but it's definitely something that it takes a little bit to scale up. So while you're going on 2TC, again, it's anytime you go 2TC and that's like your opening, you're playing defensively. Usually on the beginning part, not always. Like there's other opponents that are going to go 2TC. If it's 2TC against 2TC, you're actually going to come out ahead because you're Byzantine 2TC. I mean, there's some cases where like there's China, right? And they have faster villager production where they're almost like 2.5, 3 TCs. But that's the thing with Byzantines. And once you get T5 cisterns, you get that 25% extra boost. Now you're working on 2.5 TC production, basically. So it's again, it's 2TC, so it's going to be a little bit defensive off rip, but it is a little bit more varied. It's got some more variations to the build than we did previously, and the big thing really is that the opening is different than the hippodrome. We're not going for any of that early aggression. The hippodrome is really nice. Triumph is really nice. There's the biggest thing that I've been finding with issues with it is the 40 stack limit. I don't mind that you burn 40 stacks, at once, or up to 40 stacks at once. But the issue is, if you have up to 40 stacks and you haven't used it, like you need to use it immediately, basically, right? Because otherwise you're losing stacks. Like if you get additional stacks past 40, they're not actually gotten; they're just lost. So if they do ever change that, I think Triumph becomes a lot more, definitely a stronger ability. Just because you're just capped at 40 and you can't ever like bank more than 40, which would be a big thing, right? So yeah, that's basically it. We'll just go through the build real quick. It's very similar to the other one, except this time it takes a little bit more micro, and we're going to kind of secure the TC a little bit faster. The food is a little bit tighter on this build, but it's going to be 1 to gold, 3 on the food, 4 on the wood, 2 on the stone, and then everyone on the wood, up to 11 villagers on wood. And after that 11th villagers on wood, your next villager produced is going to go onto the berries on your winery and just start collecting from there. And then it just kind of depends about the spawn, where you drop your second TC. In general, I think trying to drop it on a wood line or trying to drop it on gold is kind of like what you really want to be prioritizing. Sometimes dropping it near your winery just helps secure farms can be good. It kind of is really dependent on the matchup and as well as your opponent's matchup. And then the mercenary houses as well is a big thing. You get 3 different wings. You can pick javelin throwers, you can pick keshiks, and you can pick longbowmen. And so some of these will be better for against certain civs. So maybe against Japan, I think you probably most likely want to go keshiks. Against maybe a more archer heavy civ like England, maybe you're going to want to go javelin throwers. So there's a bunch of dynamic there. Another thing is, because you're going to be getting that mercenary house a little bit later and after your opponent, if they're doing a 1 TC rush, you're going to be able to scout their base and see what they're building, and according to that, build your mercenary wing on that one specific contract. So let's just get into the build and let's see what we get for a spawn.
Ναι. Εργάζομαι. Έτοιμος. Ναι. Τι.
Έτοιμοι. Έτοιμοι.
Καβαλάριος. Κινούμε.
Check your neutral market. So we got Desert Raider and Mustafati Warriors. If you ever get like French Royal Knights, you want to build your mercenary camp on that like immediately. That's probably one of the strongest mercenary that you can probably hire. So we'll go over again like I usually do with my builds. we'll go over the opening build a little bit more in depth, but the first one onto gold.
Ναι.
Villagers are rallying onto wood. Our first villager built a cistern. Try to get it on the wood line, and
Τάσκοπος.
I like to prioritize on wood line for that second TC.
Πλήρωσα.
And we are kind of hitting the gold over here too, which is nice, right? But again, it's not a super focus on gold build. I always try to place on the corner here. I try to split my TC into quadrants with this this aura effect. So that's what I usually try to do.
Ναι.
We'll come over here with our scout. And then we're going to go up to our 8th villager onto food.
Καβαλάριος.
I grab these sheep. I can rally to my cistern. I can rally to this TC now. We got 8 onto food. So now we're going to go villager onto wood.
Έτοιμος.
These villagers I'm also going to pre-click onto this stone mine, the stone mining camp. Make sure you got plenty of villagers in queue. You don't want to run out of villagers.
Τάσκοπος.
And now we're going to go 4 villagers onto wood. So here's our first one. And we do want to be attentive on our gold count when we're close to 180, 190. That's where we're going to trade our... Not trade, select our villager to manually start building the camp after he's dropped it off. I like to go 2 villagers per straggler tree again. No rhyme or reason here. I just like to send one over to start chopping while the other one just goes directly into gathering. That villager just dropped the 190th gold, so we're sending him over to the mining camp. And this villager is dropping the 200, so we're sending him over to the mining camp. We're really close to aging up. We could force drop off, but I'd rather get this next villager in queue and then manually drop off. You see that got us there. And I like to go 4 tiles away from the TC. This way I can get a line of farms here, a line of farms by the TC, and get the full the bonus here. If the timing on your villager is tight here, you can always manually drop off the food on these villagers here, but we just barely snuck it in there, so we're okay. I also do like to manually select all my wood villagers onto one hotkey. If this was happening in game, it would kind of suck, but yeah, it's just what it is.
Ασφαλώς.
And we're going to scout all the way around his base. So this is like a timing around, right? Whoops. I need to go into stone here. So it's 4 on wood and then 2 onto stone. So a little bit of a mistake there by me. But we do catch it kind of in time. So a little bit late, but not in the world.
Υπέροχος.
Once I have villagers over here, I like to do 1 villager to drop the stone over here. Okay, now we got 4 villagers on wood. So now we're going to go 4 villagers on stone. Now we're going to go villagers on wood. And we're going to go up to 11 villagers. So my control group is these villagers on wood, and we got 8 villagers in the control group, and we need 11 villagers on this control group for the second TC. Now that we've got our scouting kind of sorted out, this macro's kind of sorted out, we've dropped the house, we're going to not get pop capped, everything's good here. What we can look at is where we could drop our second TC. A safe spot would be like right here. We protect our winery, we protect this. If your opponent is going really aggressive, you scouted their base, like you don't scout over here, you scout around their base. You could say that, you know, what I'm gonna do instead is, like if they're getting really aggro, I don't drop it up here, I can drop it back here, right? So there's definitely variations of what you can do here. So 1 more villager on the wood here. Let's finish scouting. And so this is kind of what I like about the scouting pattern. I'm hitting right at their age, before their age up, and then I'm hitting after their age up. So obviously you lose a little bit of info, but it's not too bad. My next villager being produced, I'm going to send over to the winery here. I personally I'm going to try to build this up front because I think it's going to be a little bit nicer. And yeah, at this point, our macro just sitting in a pretty place here. And here we can see the AI is doing AI things, but you can scout your opponent's base, right? See what they're doing, see what they're dropping. You can stay there and linger too and see like more. Where are these guys that are idling? Okay. Well, anyways, we've got enough stone now. Hockey messing up. There we go. Let's drop this here. Again, we're leaving a space for 2 tiles here. I'm going to shift click all of these villagers onto wood. That's 11 villagers on wood. And I'm going to grab manually 4 of them. And I'm going to send them over to gold. Behind this, let's keep our scout moving. Let's come down over here. Let's just finish scouting. And you can see I'm not running out of sheep here, right? So that first bit here is plenty to keep things going. But once my villagers over here are on 90, I'm going to grab 1 villager. I'm going to send them over here. And honestly, I could build this back here. I can build it up here. I can do a lot of different things here. But we're just doing this for ease of just doing it. We've aged up now. These villagers, the new villagers are gonna rally on the wood. You're gonna really need a lot of wood to kind of, for basically any 2 TC build, right? Because you got a transition here. But you can see we got a second TC up. We've got 8 villagers on food, and this is kind of the basic build here. And there isn't much more involved in it. The rest of it is just kind of be gameplay and figuring out what you got to do to like properly adjust, right? So maybe your opponent's rushing you. You can't get on gold, so you got to fall off of gold. Maybe there's a lot of things that could be happening here, right? So, but one thing I do recommend is to drop a mercenary house. You're gonna have olive oil racking up, so you might as well start doing that because you're focusing on these berries here. Another thing as well is try to get your upgrades in and going. Personally, I like to get the specialized pick first because we have a lot of upgrades that are going to be coming in, and this build right now we don't have a lot of villagers on the gold right now, and we're gonna go for our upgrades while we do everything here. So one thing I do is I like to pull this villager, go over to gold. But let's say you're getting like heavily pressured, so you just drop a barracks, right? You could drop a barracks. We're going against China, or Japan, so let's say we go with the Keshiks here, get that upgrade, and now our eco is fairly safe. It's fairly tight. We got plenty of macro, so we can start dropping farms, like if you wanted to, if you had to, or whatever. Like there's a lot of flexibility with this. We're up to 3 cisterns, and with these 3 villagers on stone, we're doing pretty good. Like if you had to drop a tower here because you're getting pressured heavy by your opponent, you drop a tower here. There's a lot of flexibility in this, right? So that's one really nice thing about this, is that there is quite a lot of flex that you can do. You can drop walls around the back here. Villagers should always start making houses when they can. If your one villager here that you pulled off a stone earlier is doing stuff now that I haven't building houses, and now I'm kind of like tight on like my macro, and there isn't much I can do here. So one thing I can do is pull another villager off of my stone for this level 4 cistern. And you can see it's a nice little transition here. We're at 8 minutes. We're at 37 villagers. Well, we'll wait till this kicks on, right? Once this kicks on, we'll have a much better idea. We'll get our specialized pick. One thing too that I sometimes forget is try to drop this mill. You're going to need it for some upgrades here. Wherever you're getting research, switch it to the dialectus so you can get your upgrades faster, get your wood chopping faster. Make sure you keep villagers in queue. A little bit of a mistake there on our part. This villager can come over here to wall, and we're just making a tight little base over here. And over here we can start walling off over here. It would be nice to wall this section off, but it's pretty big, so you don't want to go too greedy because you don't have an army up at this point, right? We're just getting units up. We could have started producing army here. Now that this upgrade is done, we switch this over to conscriptio, and these units are going to start making very quickly. There we go, 9 seconds a pop, so they start cranking out really quick. If you had to start transitioning to more military buildings, you have the macro to sustain this production to whatever you're going to need, right? So you can drop it sooner, you can drop it later. It's really up to like what's happening during the game. And do get your horticulture, do get your wheelbarrow. Those are going to be really big. A little bit unfortunate that we're a little bit outside of our range here, so that's going to definitely slow us down a little bit, but it's not end of the world. Just keep producing units, and you can see that by the 10 minutes we've got 2 contracts in. We've got this barracks side. We could have made more units a little bit faster. And if you start floating, like you feel like you're floating like too much wood, you can always grab a few villagers here and take them back and drop some farms back in your base. Make sure you queue up horticulture too. Keep walling your base. Come over here. We'll drop a house over here. Oh, get your house vision upgrade as well. That's going to help to scout out opponents' armies. And behind this, our villagers, basically at this 10-minute mark, are finishing up their gold for T5 cisterns. So this villager, like, it's really this, and this is the one thing, like on this spawn, we don't have a lot of space back here, but you can drop your T5 back here if you want to, and it's safe. for production buildings, for farms, whatever. And then yeah, so basically by 11 minutes, you're sitting in a really strong position in terms of your eco and where you're at, right? What are these villagers? These villagers are all idled. So if I had map control, I can go on these deers. We can get our survival techniques, then horticulture next. This villager can come over here. I can rally all my villagers onto there. Actually, I want to rally some villagers onto gold. We can transition to castle age play. So there's a lot of like flexibility with this build. So the biggest thing with the 2TC build being as defensive as it is just keeping track of like your macro, making sure you're in a good spot. And so that's always a little bit of a challenge in some sense, because it's not I guess hard, but it is. I mean, it's micro consuming is what it is, right? So you're always clicking and checking things, so that's just part of it, right? And filling out while you can. All the farms around your winery is never a bad thing, especially since we're macroing villagers onto this wood line. So yeah, that's pretty much the build, guys. And we'll just surrender real quick, and we'll just go over it real quick, and we can just kind of see kind of the flex around it. If you drop your production buildings a little bit sooner before your mercenary camp, you can get units out sooner. So if you need to protect stuff, like immediately, you can drop an outpost first. If you have to get off a gold like stone, and you don't get onto this, if you don't get onto stone immediately, you have to fall off a stone. That's not like necessarily a bad thing. Like if they push you off a stone or gold, because honestly, for a feudal play as Byzantines, like the only thing you really need stone for is for your cisterns and to accelerate your cisterns, because you're going to get it from production buildings anyways and farms. And for the gold is like tech ups and age up, right? So if you get macroed heavier from pulling these 4 villagers off a stone, 3 villagers off a stone, these 4 villagers off a gold, and you commit them to wood and food, you're just going to accelerate your army production early on. So it's not a bad thing at all. It's going to actually help you make your defense a little bit more stable. So first villagers onto the sheep, send the scout out, 1 villager to build a cistern. He then queues up a house and a mining camp. Your next villager is rallied to the mining camp. I get a control group of 4 of these villagers. We scout around with this guy, and the next villagers are getting rallied onto food, and we're going to go up to 8 villagers on food. Let's get the counts here. Food macro is a little bit tighter on this build than our previous one, so there is a chance that you do go idle, so you have to pay attention a little bit here. And this cistern, I always like to get a quadrant cistern, so it makes that first 4 cisterns tighter around your base. You fit 4 in a smaller space. The connection is anywhere from like, I believe 14 to like 18, depending on spawns and things like that, RNG. I do like to get this buff on the wood line. We got stone and wood on this, which was nice, and I think we're just barely touching the gold, right? Yeah, these villagers are catching, yeah, they're irrigated too, so it's catching our gold villagers. So it's actually like probably one of the best spawns you can probably get in the game right now. I mean, unless like, I don't even know how you'd fit berries in here, right? There's almost like no way that berries fit in here, but because these are so tight, so it's about as good as the spawn that you're ever going to get. 8 villagers on food, villagers onto the stragglers now. There's builds out there that rush the second TC even faster than this. Like you can get your second TC resources ready at like 4:45, and this build is more like you're about 15 seconds later because you're dropping a lumber camp. So it's more like a 5-minute one. And so in some matchups, that 15 seconds is actually going to be important, and in other matchups, not so much. But it is technically 1 villager worth of scaling in either case. But one thing that I do like about this build is you finish that second TC, but you've got all your infrastructure set up, right? You've got mining camps, you've got a lumber camp, and like sometimes, like if your TC dropped like over here, right? Say for whatever reason wood spawn was weird, or your opponent attacks your wood, and you have to drop your TC here. It's not the end of the world, because you still have a lumber camp here. You're not gonna have to long distance mine here, because your straggler trees on some of those builds are all get chopped up, and you don't have any wood for a lumber camp. So this does have a little bit more safety, but it is a little bit slower as well as a consequence of that. So we do mess up here a little bit, I believe. we have 4 villagers on wood, and we go to a 5th, it's actually 4 villagers on wood, and then 2 villagers on stone. So we make a little bit of a mistake, but we do fix it fairly quickly, right? This villager is probably wasting, I don't know, a couple seconds, right? So they're heading over. I probably should have just garrison tricked them and saved like 3-4 seconds of time, but not end of the world. So we're gonna go up to 4. At this time, your pop cap is getting close to 20. So before you hit 20, you gotta drop a house. You're always gonna have to drop a house before the second TC. So whenever you can, just throw it on there. I like to use the villager from stone because dropping this, he gets +8, and this villager already had 10, so he's dropping off. So the idle time is a little bit less painful for this villager because he's getting a little bit of resources from the stone resource, right? So it's similar to him almost staying mining. So villager's still growling up to wood. We've got 5 on wood plus these 4 makes us at 9 on wood, and we're gonna go up to 11. I like to get groups of 2 villagers on here. We're gonna pull all of these villagers, and we're gonna quick tap up this lumber camp. That way all these guys can get chopping. And that's one thing I do kind of mess up. I usually build a lumber camp with 1 villager before this age up, so a little bit of sloppiness here on our part, or on my part rather, because it's nice to have these villagers immediately chopping and not everyone stuck on the lumber camp. So a little bit of a delay right here because of that. And then now that we've got 11 villagers on wood, we're going to rally our next villager onto the berries here. So we're rallying villagers on the berry here. Some people, you can pull these villagers and go on to berries. I don't feel like accelerating that olive oil that much. It changes it by that much. So kind of like a little bit more slow and steady pace here. I feel it's a little bit nicer. And actually, if we look right now, so it's 456 right now. And we've got the 350 stone. So it says we have 380 wood, but if we look at these villagers, we've got the wood in here in my villagers' arms to drop off and get this. So we pull our villagers here, and we're going to build this TC now. It looks like I did miss 1 villager on my tap up, so we're only tapping up with 10. I usually pull 11 villagers. But it's not in the world, right? Because I send them over, and I'm always selecting 4 villagers to go over to gold. And that's just to help keep the eco upgrades stay in play. And now this is kind of one of the timing things. You're going to get a lot of stone on the drop-off. So make sure when you're around 90 stone, you can start building your aqueduct system. So I'm a little bit late here, and we're going to build the cistern first. But you can definitely start building the cistern already, and then connect it, so the timing on this can be a little bit better. But I do like keeping these 4 villagers on stone. And that's one thing different too about this build, is we're still playing fairly slow and defensive and scaling. Like, even though we're 2TC, we're committing to a cisterns build. So this is like super greedy in the sense that these villagers could have been mining wood and prepping for like buildings. So this isn't gonna this is like ideal, right? Like, this is the dream. Like, you don't get aggroed. But if you have to pull these villagers, you pull these villagers. You can build a tower here within range if you have to. If not, you just get onto the safe area over here, onto wood, onto food. Build a couple of military buildings back here. Get them inside this influence of this cistern, and fight your way back to take back your gold and your stone. While you build these production buildings, you're going to get return on stone. So if we look right now at the time, we're at 636. T2 cisterns has come online. We're at 27 pop, plus it's 10%. So right now we're actually plus 2.7. So we're almost at 30 villages right now, which is nice. And we're going to be able to scale from here. We dropped the mercenary house because at this time our olive oil count is at 236, and by the time we finish this, we're gonna train our select our contract, and we'll be really close to having our olive oil necessary. If you pull these vills from sheep a little bit sooner, like right now or even before now, after like a couple vills were on here, not even, you can almost pull them immediately at age up. You're gonna start. You'll be collecting this wine. You'll probably have enough olive oil to get this thing active almost immediately, right? And from here, we're connecting our T3 cistern. We're dropping a barracks. So all these things, especially the mercenary house, gives you they're giving you stone back. It's giving you 18 stone back, so you're getting good investment return if you farm transition here. Like if you can't get on your stone and you're on your gold and you have to farm transition, these farms, each farm you build is giving you +8. So you're always going to be able to scale up with cisterns. If you can rush it, all the better. You will throughout the match just have just a couple villages macroed on here is going to really help your eco to scale. And if you're against a 2TC opponent, this is going to give you the edge with these cisterns that you're scaling actually a lot better. So we're 8 minutes in basically, right? 750 whatever, 756 when this kicked on. And obviously you can get better timings if you really push it, but 8 minutes basically, and we're getting plus 15% eco. So our 35 is now 3.5 plus 1.75. So let's just say 1.5, right? 3.5, 1.5 is 5. So we're at 40 villages right now, which is big, right? So for an 8 minute mark. And that's the strength of 2TC is that you're always going to scale. The weakness is like you're really susceptible to raids. The plus is your eco is going to be strong with these cisterns. If you transition to farms, it's not hurting you. You're getting like if you have to pull off of this stone and you have to pull off of this gold, it's not really hurting you too bad because you're dropping farms and you're getting olive oil, which is going to go into your mercenaries, right? You're going to get passive army from there. And you're getting stone, so you're always going to guarantee this 3 cisterns. Maybe, I don't have these villagers here, and they're on wood, right? And I don't get this cistern up as quickly as I do. And in which case, you probably drop the cistern over here instead of back here. We drop this here kind of like because we can. But if like you're really pressed and getting attacked, you drop your second. You probably don't even drop your second cistern here. You drop it right here. So you get this aura. This aura is covering half my eco. You put that 4th cistern we put down, but you put your second cistern here instead of up here. Now you buff your whole eco, right? So and that's a pretty big deal. I mean, these villagers are catching the buff just barely when they're dropping off, right? So, but some of these villagers aren't. So, yeah, if you farm transition as Byzantines, it's really not a bad deal for you. It's actually kind of in your favor, right? So 2TC is safe. It's defensive. If the game goes longer than 15 minutes, you're always going to be in a great spot. So obviously your hardest opponents are going to be the ones that are going to go 1TC and all in you here. Obviously, right now we have no army, and it's not realistic in that sense because we haven't committed anything to units besides building the 1 Merc contract. But if you have this barracks up, if you have a range up, you get these 4 villagers off of gold, these 3 villagers off of stone, and they're on wood and food respectively. You're cranking out an army. So and it's defensive, but you can hold pretty well. If you start getting dived during things like the TC up on over here on your gold, if it's a couple units, if you're getting tower rushed during this build, you can just pop Acrotoy defense. I can't do it because it's a replay. And you pop this, and these villagers get +2 attack, +2 armor, melee and range. So they become really beefy. They can fight pretty much any Dark Age harass. So you just have to micro a little bit if a villager gets low. So this is the build, guys. It's a macro-oriented build. It's a safe build. It's very different from how I normally play, but it is really strong. And I've got one more build for Byzantines. I know we did a trade build where it was a kind of a transition into trade, but I'm going to relook at that as well, and I'm going to look at a little bit more, a better way to kind of accelerate and get that trade online and going a little bit faster. So thanks for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you on the next one.